also. Finished off last week. Those who were absent last week, I'm sorry to tell you.
Repetition.
You missed something, huh?
Repeat. Encore.
We're in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. I'm studying the 3 verses here. 1 to 3. Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us. And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Yeshua, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of Elohim. For consider him who has endured such hostility by sinners against himself, so that you may not grow weary and lose heart. Praise the name of Yahweh today. I want to speak today on the subject of looking unto Yeshua, fixing our eyes upon Yeshua. The writer begins here in chapter 12, carrying on where he left off in chapter 11. Chapter 11 is famously called the roll call of the saints of old. It's there the heroes of the faith are portrayed one by one, those who have lived, overcome, been victorious, and now await their reward. And it starts way back from the time of, was it Moses, right on Cain and Enoch and Moses and all the famous saints of which we say so much about. And it was demonstrating how through faith these individuals overcome, how much they gained in life through faith, how they obtained promises, how they received miracles and signs and wonders. And even when they didn't receive a miracle or a wonder, their faith was so strong it allowed them to die, even for the glad tidings, and to suffer. And the word of Yahweh saying, see, we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us lay aside every encumbrance. Brethren, let me tell you something. This journey that we're on, we're not the first one to set out. There have been thousands who have gone before us, who have been successful, who have endured, who have made it. And sometimes when we feel on our own, and we are tempted to sing like the old Negro spiritual, which says, nobody knows the trouble I have seen. Remember, somebody's been through it already. And probably even more. And they have made it. And it says, since we have such a cloud of witnesses, it's like we say, listen, if Moses can make it, if Abel could make it, if Abraham and Isaac and Jacob can make it, and the patriarchs, if Joseph can make it, if the prophets can make it, why not me? That's the attitude we should have, isn't that so? We should not look at these individuals as if to say they were so exceptional, they out of reach, they had much more than we had, because many of them, they didn't even have. Yeshua was not yet revealed. The grace of Yahweh in abundance has been poured out upon us and to us. They didn't have it in their day, yet they still made it because of faith. And because of faith, they endured and went through to the end and held on to the end. And now they rest and wait the eternal reward that is promised to all those that love Yahweh. And he says, because we have those witnesses, here are some steps that we must take. Lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Every one of us, I'm sure can relate and testify that in our walk we are conscious that there is certain sins, weaknesses, reoccurring issues and problems that tend to dog our steps. Isn't that true? Something that comes up repetitively. Some things that we are fighting with. We fight with on a regular basis. My battle may not be your battle. Your battle may not be my battle. But there is something that the enemy, a trap that he has set for every one of us. Satan is a master strategist and a psychologist. He studies every believer. He knows our weakness. He knows our strengths. And once he knows there is a weakness, a chink in our armor, he will continually exploit that weakness. But we have one who overcome by the name of Yeshua, who said, the devil cometh to me and findeth nothing. There was no weakness, no chink in his armor, no besetting sin whereby the enemy could latch onto and trip him up and cause him to fail. If we are to look at our life and our experience, we will probably come to the conclusion that there is something that time and time again keeps tripping us up. Isn't that true?
Yes.
For instance, somebody might be an alcoholic, they love drink. And Yahweh has delivered them from booze. They get a good deliverance. But the enemy of their soul, already knowing what their weakness was, what will he try and do?
Give them drink.
He will try and exploit that area of their life that what they used to do, or the way of thinking. And he will, if they walking down the street and they pass a rum bar and they smell the liquor coming through the door. And as they think, boy, they say to themselves, I remember the time. Boy, when I used to drink and feel good and happy and so on and so on. And through their senses, or sometimes they walk past a billboard and see a huge bottle of Heineken, you know, being advertised, or a young lady holding up, telling something that can give them wings, can give them power. And they remember where they are coming from. And the enemy said to them, let's try one. You don't have to go back and drink like you used to drink. Just take one. Just for old time's sake. Just one. And they will say, all right. And then I really get drunk, you know. I go just, long time we don't take a medicine. Or not pack a little brandy, or a little shot of vodka. Then probably buy it and slip it home. And then take one. Just one. When you take one and feel good, feel like you can sing. And say, no problem. I'm in control. I'm in control. And take one. And then say, well, I go, we have the bottle, I might as well have to go finish it, you know.
Okay, you know, good for you, so.
And take two. If they are in control, and take three. When When it's done, they think to themselves, like, oh, I'm in control. They can buy another one. And before they know what has happened, they are once again entangled in that from which they were delivered so easily. And the enemy stay one side and laugh. I said to them, no. Say you're delivered. Because you get up in a church and testify that you have victory in Yeshua. And so you know, forget everything. Surely Yeshua can help you. Come back. I will forgive you. No devil can forgive us. We forgive you for leaving me. Come. And before that, if that person doesn't get hold of himself, or Yahweh doesn't speak to that person and bring them to repentance and to faith, what they do? They go right back to where they are. Doesn't matter what your vice is. If you're a drinker, if you're a gambler, if you had women was your problem, it doesn't really matter. The enemy only has to get a little foothold. Only a little foothold. And so, for those who are serious about this journey, he says, listen, lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us. You cannot lay aside the sin which so easily entangles us or you until you know what that sin is. You have to identify it. Not true? Now, sometimes people don't like to call sin, sin. They have all kind of fancy name for sin nowadays. What we call it now? We call it a little problem. A little shortcoming. A little weakness. Now we have all kind of title and name. But you know something? When you come to Yahweh for repentance, in faith, but I come to him and say, Father, you know my shortcomings. But I tell him about my shortcomings. You know this little issue that I have. Probably Yahweh don't know what is this little issue. Tell him plain and straight. Father, you know I have a big sin. My problem is lust. My problem is greed. My problem is covetousness. My problem is I quickly cuss my word. My problem is my temper, my wrath. My problem is I can't stop keep malice. And it's sin before you in your sight. When you confess and acknowledge your sin, there is forgiveness for that thing. There is no forgiveness for no little shortcoming. There's forgiveness for sin. So acknowledge, the psalmist says, I acknowledge my sin, and thou forgives my iniquity. And the writer is saying here, listen, the sin which so easily entangle you, the one that you're about to offend. Easily. He says, has to be laid aside. So easy to say laid aside, you know. But when it comes to the actual doing, sometimes there are certain habits, behavioral patterns that people may have that is so entrenched in them they almost by default think and act that way. There are some people who are easily discouraged. And I not to discourage them. The cloud come over and the sun not shining, they're discouraged. And sometimes they might go like when poor with rain, we're going to get floods. And I like the cloud that passes. And they're in despair. They just, everything they see, they take a negative turn to it. And it's like a default way of thinking. Some people are like that. If there are some people, you might have a problem with greed, with food. You see, it is a besetting sin, you know, to eat too much. It's a sin. But the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. When I talk, say it's a spirit of heaviness. Making you fast. You can't agree. Sometimes we just eat. And sometimes, especially nowadays in a pandemic, when you shut up in your house. Sometimes I'm in my house. And when you're under lockdown, you walk in your fridge. And your belly full and you still see something. And you eat. And 5 minutes later, you go back again. You see something else, you eat. And you can still eat and you put it on the pounds, you don't show me because I'm not kind of built that way. But it's not matter, you know, because there's some manga people and fat people, you know. We make you feel so fat, we never call you here. So as we say manga, she look for me. There are some people who you think that person wouldn't have a problem where food is concerned. Look how they're skinny. And that's how it works. You can have persons who are thin and greedy. And you can have persons who are big and fat and they are disciplined. They just have a thyroid problem or some problem that make them big. So it's not an issue of to look at a person's size and say, man, I'm greedy, whatever. And that's how it works. You can have somebody who look trim like me. And still, you know, look trim. Trim like me and can still be greedy. And still eat more than they need to eat. Well, when you're belly full, you just eat. And I eat. And it can lead to other things. Later on, it can come to obesity, it can lead to certain sickness, it can elevate your sugar, it can do all kinds of things in your body. And it becomes, to you or to me, a besetting sin that needs to be laid aside, something that I need to recognize and say, you know, this is a problem. This is an issue, I need to deal with it. I don't need to keep on eating so much. Yeah, some people have a problem with gossiping. They can't help it. They just can't help it. Well, let me say this. Because if we are bought with a price, if we receive the Spirit of Yahweh, we can't plead and say, we can't help it no more. That is for sinners. No, we have the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. That is, there are certain choices that I can choose not to do certain things, just like I can choose to do. If I do something when I am not, it's against my will, and I didn't choose to do it, then I am possessed. Something else I control me? Not true. I must be possessed with a demon that making me act that way. When we don't want to do it, it's like me and them. No. Praise His name. There is a measure of liberty that's given to every one of us. Freedom. And we have a freedom to choose and we can make choices. And Yeshua was able to say to His disciples, those that would want to follow Him, He says, listen to me. You want to make it to the kingdom? You want to come through? Then He said some hard words. It is better. It is better for you to lose your right hand and go into the kingdom with one hand than to have your two hands and miss the kingdom. Isn't that what He said? Yes. He says in another place, it's better to you have one foot. Cut it off. He said, if a member offends you, cut it off. If your eye offends you, pluck it out. It's better for you to go to kingdom with one eye than to go into hell with two. Right. Now, was Yeshua teaching us to self-abuse ourselves? No. Was He telling us to get a machine down? He said, boy, everything missing me a teeth. I will fix you. Bam! never tip again. Is that what you said?
No.
The problem is not with the hand or the eye and the foot. The problem is in here. He's saying whatever it is that is causing you to offense, whatever is leading you into sin, cut it off at the root. Cut it off. Praise his name. And whatever it is that besetting sin, that so easily entangles us, let us run. Sometimes, let me say something. Sometimes very mature saints, very mature believers who have been around for a long time, they have problems that they've had since they come into the kingdom. A besetting sin. And sometimes that besetting sin can reveal itself. All when they've been around 10, 20, 30 years, they say, my sister, brother, so-and-so, go on, so. Wait, you have to go on, so. Sometimes some people lose out on the smallest thing. And you say, well. You never know, so you need to say so. And it sounds so spiritual when he did I testify. And it sounds so sweet when did I sing. And when did I pray. And now this little thing somebody offend them and they just go on and I rage and I go on and I cuss and I fling down this and I slam door. I said, wait. What is it? It's a besetting sin. See when they carry on at home, but you don't know. But now they broke out where you can see them. And it's a problem that needs to be there. Such a person who has to do what the word says. Lay aside every besetting sin. And this is where we don't give ourselves sympathy. What I mean by give ourselves sympathy? When we do wrong, the devil never condemns us, you know. Or if he does condemn us, it's to condemn us to leave you assured. Sometimes he pats us on the back and says, don't worry, I saw you born. I saw you steer. As if to say, I let them stay the same way. I saw you steer. And he will kind of make you feel comfortable and say, all right, yeah, but you understand. They can't put up with this. We couldn't bear it any longer. I have to tell them the mind. And even though one or two bad words come out, we never do that. But we have to tell them the mind. What's going on there? That sin is called evil speaking. That's sin. It is sin. This bad temper is sin. The Bible says, let no corrupt speech issue from your mouth. So if you speak corrupt, if you curse bad words, and sometimes we don't curse bad words, but why? We are use bad word cursing. Excuse me a moment. I'm in service at the moment. Alright? Come later. I'll wait for him. I see you're fine, man. She probably thought that service finished already. Hallelujah, because over there it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So they probably didn't say 5 o'clock over there. Hallelujah. Sometimes things slip out. The devil will not want us to admit, but sometimes we have to take a grip of ourselves. Take a grip of our lives. And lay aside the besetting sin and say, I'm having done with you, I know who you are. You're in disguise sometimes, but you're the same sin because sometimes sin can disguise itself, you know. You know, so sin can come in a disguise. All the time they dress up like raw sin, naked sin and dress up. Look, if you find somebody who is a gossip, that person loves to listen to story, run, but tell other people business. It sweet them. It's like, it makes the idea to tell somebody else, especially when he's speaking bad about people you don't know. If you were to say to that person, you are gossiping. No, That's not me and gossip. I'm just concerned about the person. And because of my concern for them, I'm talking to somebody about them to get advice about them. But I slander them, I pull the person down and I expose all the weakness and the sin which man you see them with. And which time and on which hour. I am not gossiping. I'm not gossiping, I'm just observing so I can pray for them. Liar. And gossip. Besetting sins. Hallelujah. Let me tell you something. Let me turn to Torah. That's the law. Yahweh gave some laws in Torah, in Leviticus. And he said, listen, if you have a house, Israelite, and you see some mold on a stone in the house, he said, scrape it out. Let me do something. He said, no. If you see that woman go back again, you call the priest. The priest can look at it now, he's like the technician or the kind of the health inspector. And the priest will look at it. And the priest might say, all right, it's like some mold in my house. Take out that stone. Or put in another stone. You took out that stone. Put in another stone and you go your ways. Few weeks later, you know, you see more or less with the 10 spirit as well. Priest come again. And the priest said, you know what? Your house sick. Your man also say house can't sick. House can't sick. He said, every stone that has the mold, take it out and take it to a clean place and burn it. And get fresh stone and plaster the place up. And if it ever come back again, you know what the priest said? No. Okay, I'm going on here. Because you want that stone and take down, you might as well take down the whole place. You have they call it a fretting disease. Fretting sickness like a mold. That no matter, it's like it's in the fabric of the wall somewhere, and if you fix it here so, it broke out here so, if you replace the stone, it's still not come back. And you might say, but me don't want to lose my house. That's what that stone, that's fretting mold on your stone, if it get down in your lungs, it's deadly. So you better get rid of it. I told you the story of my same daughter here in our house, come home, a cough. Her daughter was sick and she said she didn't have COVID, she take it to the hospital and no COVID. And my mind just said to her, listen, mind you something in our house she allergic to, you know. Mind you something in your house she allergic to. A few days later, she come now home. As soon as she come in the house, she start cough. As the mother know. She start cough. She wonder if she start cough. She must remember what they said. Mine said something like house. She realized she had a mole on the wall. And she had reported it some months ago. And then Dorothy look at it and said, I'm going to come and put it way down the bottom of the list. To continue. And that was really what was causing the respiratory problem, the mold on the wall, because there are living spores in that thing. And when that thing you breathe it in, it's probably in the atmosphere, it can cause you to be sick. And this house of ours, this house that we dwell in, because this body is called a house, sometimes a little mold gets inside of the stone and inside here. And you try to, you take it out, you come, Because the priest will come lay hands on you for prayer. They come at altar. The priest lay all that, but all they do is scrape the mold. The stone them still infected. And one day, more radical steps need to be taken. Tear it out. Take it to a place where it can be burnt and destroyed away from civilization. Sometimes you need the whole house of it dismantled so that you can get some fresh stone and have a fresh new start. Because you're infected with something that is dangerous.